Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 121. This is the Christmas episode. It's the 23rd of December, Friday the 23rd of December. There was an informal memo that went out about Christmas jumpers, and if you are watching on YouTube, you will see that one of us is wearing a Christmas jumper and the other two are very much dressed in black.
I think you'll find we discussed that you have a section in your wardrobe for Christmas jumpers, whereas I don't even have a section in my wardrobe. That was the thing.
I have a pile of folded Christmas jumpers 12 months of the year, and I get to wear them 1 month of the year. I'm a bit like it's a bit of an obscure reference, certainly for anyone not in the UK, but a bit like Giles Brandreth. Is that right? Giles Brandreth?
Yes.
I've got a selection of Christmas jumpers and Christmas T-shirts. And I was just saying to Pete before we started recording, this year I've also invested in 2 Christmas Hawaiian shirts. So and I'll be wearing one of them for the Unique Results Christmas. Well, I wore one of them for the Unique Results Christmas do 2 weeks ago. Okay.
Which is next week, yeah?
Yes. Anyway,
like a Christopher Nolan podcast, isn't it? With timestamps.
Yes, indeed. And I do have a Christmas waistcoat and a Christmas tie, and I have gone all out before and done that, but not this year.
Well, I could just dye my beard white, and then
you could indeed.
I mean, I've just got my Christmas thong on. I don't know if anyone wants to see.
No,
this is where you pull your trousers down and go, oh, actually, sorry, no, I haven't.
Well, isn't that why Eddie Hall is banned from Canada?
Sorry?
Eddie
because
Hall
he wears budgie smugglers. Is that right?
Well, no, I think he was going to be arrested. I think he pulled his trousers down on a video and and left the country. And then they went searching for him, the police, and apparently he's not allowed back in because he took his trousers down on a leg press machine.
Oh, okay.
It's a story that our listeners can delve into in their own time with their own pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're digging into an early Christmas dinner or you're listening to this on Christmas Day, sorry about that.
So before we go any further, Mr. Peter Lant, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I was just saying I'm busy, but I'm not busy. Like, I've got loads of stuff flying around in my head, which makes me feel busy. And actually today I've got back-to-back calls all day. So it's like, it feels busy, but it's just going through the motions and doing stuff. But it's when you kind of get that, don't you? When, like, lots of things are flying around your head. People will have that this time of year, like, oh, well, after New Year, I'm going to get started. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then everything, like, you project lots of stuff into the future. You feel busy and then and you get kind of overwhelmed with it. And it's not about projecting stuff into the future and for New Year and everything. It's just the actual way I'm doing things right now. I'm changing a lot of stuff around, and it's just creating lots and lots of like overwhelmed type feelings, which I'm trying to deal with. So, but it's okay,
It's quite interesting.
It doesn't help when it gets dark at 4:00 either.
It's quite interesting though, because we've spoke about this a lot, haven't we, on the podcast in the past. That you are someone who is you're not used to being busy, are you? You kind of engineer in a very enviable way. I mean, you kind of engineered your life to be deliberately not busy and to have plenty of time and that sort of thing. And I know in the last sort of month or 6 weeks, you've taken on, you're starting to do a different kind of coaching program. You're doing more work yourself with groups and things like that. So you've kind of voluntarily and very intentionally kind of given yourself a lot more to do, and now you're kind of dealing with that, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, it is what it is. That's the thing. I'm still not hugely busy. I still get time to walk the dog and everything. It's just it's having things on your mind more that you need to do, but that I don't necessarily need to do now. I could like, stuff that I'll do, like I've got a process of doing. So I'll do stuff tomorrow and then, and then stuff after Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year and all that. And on certain days, and I know when I'm going to do them, but it's just when you've got them in your mind or you've got them written down on a bit of paper that you're going to do them, it's having them there, isn't it? So, but anyway, it's Christmas. Let's not talk about that.
Well, no, but it's because a lot of people will be going through that kind of thing at the moment, won't they? Like you say, that time of year, family visiting, and we'll talk about this in more depth in a minute, but it's quite a reflective time of year as well, isn't it? Kind of December and then moving into the new year, and you kind of look back on the year you've just had, and you do project forwards into the year that's coming and changes you might want to make and that sort of thing. So I think it's something that's quite common for people at the moment. And Mr. Paul Bassett's got a big change coming, because we've seen a photo of his new premises, which looks like he's going to open a hybrid between John Lewis and the Apple Store. It's a very swanky premises that Paul's signed up for. But how are you doing, Paul?
I'm good. I mean, that was part of my remit when I wrote down my goals for a venue. Swank was at the top.
Swanky,
like a high level of swanky.
Did you spell it right?
Well, I'm a London la-di-da. It's. We got swanky venues. No, it's good. I've managed to. It's something. It's a long term coming. Well, I mean, I've been thinking about it for so long, and there's a couple of kind of things that happened in September that just made it just like, okay, we just got to do this. And so I bit the bullet. Sometimes you have to be pushed rather than do these things yourself, because you can get quite comfortable and you can kind of get complacent. Is probably the word where I was. And then, so just, did the usual. I suppose it's not far off from buying a house. You just spend your time on Zoopla and trying to find obscure agents who have different things. And, there's a couple of dead ends. And then eventually this one came up. It's actually, I didn't think it would be big enough. But I kind of thought about my business model and how I would utilize the space. And it was a brand new build, which is great, which meant a lot of stuff was already in there that we needed. So it's now just making some minor changes. I was in there today. I got the keys yesterday, which is fantastic, and put up some posters just telling people it's coming soon, which obviously being Christmas, will be opening at the beginning of the new year actually. So it's going to be a quick turnaround. So talking about putting things on your plate, there's a lot to do, but I need to get it done before January, because there's going to be everyone ready to rock, wanting to get fit and healthy. And so I've had a bit of fun with the old gear side of things and just trying to work out what I'm going to be doing and organising.
So you'll be getting lots of gym equipment for Christmas.
Yeah. Just, lots of just
see if you can get some rope in some elves to help you assemble, because having just done that recently myself, that's I say myself, I actually did zero assembly, but I oversaw the assembly and kind of delegated the assembly, but people, it's quite a big process.
Well, what they say is there's the people, in a jungle, there's the people with machetes cutting the undergrowth, and then there's the people behind them managing the machete cutters, and then at the top there's people at the top of the trees telling them which way to go. So you were there at the top of the tree telling them which way to go. Now I've got a blood blister from actually taking apart a piece of equipment yesterday.
I thought you were going to say from getting the keys. I think they were quite stiff in the door.
Surprising how heavy they are. It's, no, I haven't got. So it's all good. Yeah, plenty on my plate. But all good.
Excellent. So recently we've nestled this Christmas episode in between Mark Lewis part 1 and part 2, which we spoke to Mark, and we've spoke to Mike Sousa recently as well, and we've got some fantastic guests obviously lined up. But I'm just wondering, looking back obviously on the past 12 months of this podcast, do you feel like what have you guys taken from the process as a whole of doing the podcast and just meeting up weekly and speaking to people from all around the world? And if there's anything sort of specific that you've taken or that's shifted direction for you? I know that Pete's kind of, moving in not a different direction, but he's kind of embracing something slightly different at the moment. And obviously yourself, Paul, with the new premises and things. But yeah, how's the last 12 months kind of been for you guys?
I like a lot of. I mean, what's been great has just been the sheer quality of the game.
Not the sheer quality of your Wi-Fi, Paul, but hopefully it'll come back in a second.
I've got some editing to do, haven't I?
I'll tell you what, Pete, why don't you go, and then hopefully Paul will drop back in a minute.
Okay.
We don't want to edit. This is all part of, this is the beauty of life. This is the beauty of life. Oh, here he is.
He's back again.
He's back again. Sorry.
Was that me? Did I disappear?
Yes. We heard you say what's been lovely is just the sheer quality of.
Yeah, sheer quality of the guests over the last year. I think we haven't really struggled to find good people, and certainly not struggled to find people who are willing to tell you and tell you their stories and give people value. But I think it's just the power of decision making has been the main theme for me for this year. Is just like to not be frozen in indecision. I think a lot of people like Simon Marion, I'm trying to think now, a couple of other guests, particularly the coaches, people who come from more the mental side of things, they just talk about how they get people into a state where they can make a decision. And I think that's been fascinating talking to those, and that's really where I've been mainly influenced. I think, just that mindset game. I think that's more important. Every day I run business, every day I train myself. As much as I love techniques and new ideas, and I love the flights of fancy and exploration, it's just that mindset, because it's been my biggest weakness, and it's also, I can see it's the strength at times. It's just but it's a thing that I battle with, and a thing that interests me.
Okay, that's excellent. And then that may be part of that, as like you say, it's helpful for you to be thinking about this and to know about this for when you're coaching others, but also, like you say, for yourself, that big leap of faith, or that big decision that you've made sort of at the back of this year, where with the new premises and things. I mean, that does, as someone who runs their own business as well, big decisions like that are, they're not easy to make, are they? And you just have to, it is almost like a leap of faith in many ways.
Yeah, I think the thing is you always got to be kind of comfortable with a certain kind of amount of risk. And particularly if you're running your own business, you're kind of a risk taker, and the more experienced people seem to be able to manage that risk better and understand the consequences of the decisions they make. But in a way, I'm trying not to overthink it a little bit. I'm just trying to just do. I think the only challenge that comes to that is just doing so much, and just because, as Peter said in the intro, I suppose to phrase it slightly different, is the tyranny of the urgent. Everything needs to be done. Everything's a priority, and I can't also lose sight of like working with my clients. That's got to be the main thing I do. Spending time actually making sure that they're getting what they want, because it's easy just to be drifting to these esoteric things or the stuff that's pressing in my admin folder. So just I think that's a lot of the guests. Whenever a guest is talking, I'm always gravitating to that kind of aspect of what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And then Pete, for yourself, this last year, like you say, you've sort of the last quarter of the year, you've kind of, embarked on something slightly different yourself. But what's the if you could kind of summarize, your experience, what would it be?
Yeah, like Paul's just hit on loads of stuff there. Number one, Vicky's episode. I got a text off friend of the show, Ben Morris. Yeah, burpees the other day, and he was saying that was great. He said, I've only listened to 5 minutes of it. It's already a brilliant episode, and I really like that. I like episodes like that because they're very factual about things that most people don't know and that you can't necessarily find on the internet. So if you want to lose weight and you want to get fitter, stronger, and all that, you can go and find a program on the internet. It's there, and all you have to do is just follow a thing and do it. But most people can't or don't end up following the entire thing, and because life gets in the way. Whereas the stuff that Helen spoke about, I can't even remember when she was on. I don't know if that was last year, wasn't it? But anyway,
no, Helen might have been. well, it might have been sort of towards the start of this year. So
yeah,
10 months
so
ago. Maybe,
when we had her on, and then when we had Vicky on, they were talking about things that are very hard to find information on, I think, or good information, put it that way. So that was a really informative episode, and I enjoyed that. And I still think the idea that we had to do a little series of it from, through like a life events was great.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, I mean, like we've had I don't know if we've had more mindset people on, or I've just been thinking about mindset more in terms of the conversations we've had. But when we had, Simon Marion was great, obviously. I was talking about him last night, actually. And Mark Bennett was really good, just about the thought process that goes into coaching rather than actual coaching. Because the coaching bit, I mean, fair enough, there's an art to, people talk about the art of coaching and all that sort of stuff, which there is. But the actual getting people to do stuff, once they know how to do it, it's not getting them to do it. It's getting them to keep doing it and doing it progressively and what have you. So what Paul's just been talking about there, about his new place and getting, taking risk. Because every new adventure, every new thing is a risk, isn't it? There's a risk to doing it. Or it's just scary. Like people think there's a risk to getting in shape. And it's like, well, there's not really. It's just quite scary because it's something new and your brain sees it as a risk.
I swear people buy a house quicker than they make a decision around their health.
Exactly. And it's funny, but like, because what you were saying, and I've had this recently, because when you start to change what you do, some people drop off, some people come in new and all of that. And it kind of gets very, what's like insecure or uncertain about what's going on. And if you start to, I'm talking about me here, but like if you in general start to think, you've had one bad day, you've had a wedding at the weekend or whatever, and you fall off the wagon, and then everything's knackered, and that's it, your program's done, you haven't stuck to it, and you let your emotions take over in all of that, then it's just never going to work, is it? So in the thing like we've just been talking about there, like in business and what have you, if you have a good month, everyone's happy, way brilliant. If you have a bad month, it's like, oh no, life's over. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't go month to month. It's a longer term thing. And I think that I've started thinking about that a lot more, about reactions to immediate issues. And then, so like the overwhelm thing I was talking about, and having lots of things to do, but not being super busy, but having a busy brain. This is what will happen with people when they're getting in shape as well, or starting out a new program or whatever. And they've got so much going on in their lives, especially the people we talk to who are of a certain age and have got kids and jobs and responsibilities and all that. All of that stuff is going around in your head, and you're trying to pile something new on top of it. So the whole kind of ethos around my stuff now is more around behavior change than getting in shape, because that's actually what it is, and it is behavior change. And if you try to do everything at once, your brain just can't cope with it.
That's one of the big things
shuts you down.
I was going to say, one of the big things that Mark Lewis said, it may have been in part 1 or part 2. I can't remember.
We'll find out when we get there.
Find out when they come out.
Sorry,
depends where you edit it. Yeah. When he said, if you've got good habits but you haven't got a goal, then you're in a good place. If you've got a goal but you don't have good habits, then you're nowhere. And I really like that. And I think we've had lots of Dan John's one of the main ones that comes to mind. But we've had lots of people, and they tend to be older people who are a bit more experienced and a bit wiser and all the rest of it, who say, actually, you don't need a cast iron goal all the time, but if you're setting these good habits and this behavior change, like you say, it's far easier to then set yourself a goal with good habits in place, rather than to set yourself a goal with no good habits in place, because then you really are, you're then starting to kind of, you're starting from scratch, and you've got to then establish all the habits and things. So I think that the kind of line that you're taking is fantastic, because it's about just doing those daily things, isn't it? Those small daily actions. And we've spoke obviously about, Atomic Habits, James Clear, numerous times on this podcast. But the older I get and the more experienced I get, I really think it's just about doing those small things over and over and being consistent. And one of the things you said, Pete, I think it was just this week, I kind of said, oh, when are we going to record the podcast? We've got quite a few in the can, as it were. Should we have a week off? And then you kind of said, well, no, let's be consistent. Let's record this week. And I think that's fantastic, because it's so easy to get out of the habit of doing it. And then when you come back to do it, it's been 2 weeks. So like anything, everyone knows training, you miss a week's training, then that first, miss 2 weeks, you miss 3 weeks, you miss a month. For every time, it's harder and harder and harder to get back again. So I think that consistency and those habits are so important.
But this is what builds up resilience over time as well, isn't it? About doing the thing even when you don't want to, or when not necessarily you don't want to, you do want to, but somewhere in your head it's saying like, not today, because you've got all this other stuff on and you're going to be tired. And I just think that's massive. And I've been using weight loss as an example a lot recently, because that's another thing I've realized is, whatever you say on Facebook and Instagram and all that about training and here's the exercises you can do and all of this sort of stuff, most people just want to lose a few pounds in the beginning. That's where they're at, because they can't even think about all the other stuff. They're just like, do you know what? I just like to feel better in my own skin, have my clothes fit better, or whatever. And I'm not saying like everyone needs to do that. If people are overweight, that's fine, and they're quite comfortable where they are, that's fine. But a lot of people aren't. But they talk themselves out of the fact that they're not happy there because they can't be bothered. Not can't be bothered. They can't see how to change it. And I've been, like I said, I've been talking about this a lot recently about how, because of stuff I used to put up and people say, eat less and move more. That's a big one. And it's like, well, if it was as easy as that, we wouldn't have a 28% obesity rate. And then and then they say, oh, well, what you need to do is just work out how many calories you need and just stick to that. And then plan all your meals ahead. And it's like, if you don't do that, that's not going to work, is it? Because if you're eating 3,000 calories a day and you need to eat 2,000 to lose body fat, and you just eat willy-nilly anyway, and you don't plan your meals. If you try and change all that in one go, it's like, well, that's all you need to do. It'll work, but that's learning a skill of recording your food and learning possibly new recipes and how to make them in advance and how to store them and all that. So that's all a skill, while trying to learn a new habit as well. Neurologically, that's just, that's, your head's just going to explode.
I listened recently to the podcast, the Huberman Lab podcast with, I've listened to that a lot, but I listened to the one with Lane Norton on it, BioLane. It was like 3.5 hours or something, all around nutrition. And he said, like you said, eat less and move more is saying that to someone who is, overweight or obese or in a real bad way. Oh, we just need to eat less and move more. It's like saying to someone who's like in poverty or poor, oh, well, you've just got to spend less than you earn, spend less than you earn, it's like, okay, yes, I understand the concept, you know what I mean? But there's so much nuance and so much more different, so many layers of this that goes on, so yeah, it's, and I think probably
I also think definitely the behavior change aspect to it and understanding the process of behavior change is a lot more empathetic. It's a lot more, it's more gentle than the stuff you see out there of like, just get rid of your fears and, go at it. And what do people say, get some discipline and all of that. And it's like, it's true. And it's great to have all of that because it makes you a person who can then overcome more than you thought and all of that. But if you're coming from a place where you don't know what you're doing, or you've been that way for 20, 30 years or whatever, like it's impossible. It's not, well, some people can't do it. You look at like David Goggins and all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to change. So they do. But not everyone, that's like a massive one-off, isn't it? So I've just been, this has been playing on my head a lot. But the funny thing is, I get a bit guilty now. I was just thinking about this when you were talking earlier. I get a bit guilty sometimes because Some of my guys don't have a goal. They just turn up every session, swing a bell around, and then go home, and they're quite happy with that. And we never talk about goals. We never talk about diet. We never talk about anything like that. They just turn up, we'll have a chat, they swing the bell, do a few presses, some squats, what have you, and then they go home. And that's it. They're like, right, brilliant. And they enjoy that. And that's what they want. And I'm like, right, that's what, if you want anything more, just tell me. But I had a new guy the other day as well, who was like, with him, we've been doing swings and presses and squats and some like single leg work because he's not very stable on his legs, on a single leg. And he said, on your website, it said like there was loads of other exercises. And so, is there any more varieties to this? And I was like, how much more variety do you want? Or do you just want to get stronger at the things that we're doing right now, which you are? And he was kind of like, I was only asking. And I'm like, I can give you loads of variety, but variety doesn't really get you anywhere, does it? And I think he got it, but that's one of the things that people, again, tend not to understand. And we've been doing a variety of things for the last 20 years. And then it's like, well, actually, that's got me nowhere. So what do I do now? Sorry, Paul, what were you going to say?
I suppose there's a difference between a goal and purpose. Because you can have purpose without a goal, I think, purpose in life, purpose, doing something purposefully, doesn't have to be goal driven, but it still has high level of intent. So, to be a man of purpose, to be a person of purpose, to be an individual purpose is something that is a strong character trait. So, I would definitely characterize the person who shows up, does the work, doesn't have a particular goal, as just being someone of purpose. Their purpose being they want to live a better, more fulfilling life, and they know activity is part of it, and they know they need to be in a routine. They have discipline, and I think that's a powerful state to be in. I think that's probably ultimately the state that's going to get the most singular and the most impressive results, because it's one which will take the least effort, because you have made that your character. I think, and I think I spoke about it a few weeks back, about the difference between, discomfort and suffering. Some people find something uncomfortable and they grow from it, and other people suffer doing exactly the same thing and retreat from it.
Yeah.
So it isn't very festive, I'm afraid.
No, well, we'll wish everyone happy Christmas at the end, but these are just like, this is stuff I think about constantly. And read about. I read this. This isn't very festive at all, but I know you read it recently as well, James. I've reread Man's Search for Meaning. I'm looking over there. Yeah. It's in my bedroom, actually. Yeah. And there's so many quotes out of that. It's unbelievable. But one of them, I wrote it down the other day, and have I still got it on here, actually? Yes, I have. A man who lets himself decline because he cannot see any future goals finds himself occupied with retrospective thought. And that's when people are thinking I am this person because of everything that's happened to me, and there's bugger all I can do about it. And it's like, if you've got a future, not necessarily a future goal, but a future vision of where you're going, what path you want to take, because you've got over everything, or not got over everything, but you're not focusing on the past, but you're focusing on the future. That's what got him through his ordeal, through the camps he was in and stuff like that in the war. But and he said he saw the decline in people who didn't have that.
We live in a very nostalgic culture, don't we? I mean, we think about all the technology that we've created. My phone just tells me what's happened in the past all the time. It's just memories of the past. Even if you listen to a lot of modern music, there's a sense of kind of pathos for the past. I saw some random video of an Ed Sheeran song from a few years back, and it's about his childhood and it's about his pathos. And it's like that. I think, it's quite easy when we have access to so much, that we end up looking to the past for meaning, because the future seems so ambiguous and it seems so complex. And what did they call it? They called it the, I remember it's on an Adam. Do you remember? It's Adam Curtis. He's a documentarian who's done plenty of really interesting documentaries. He's got a good one on Russia, actually, at the moment on the BBC iPlayer.
Some good Christmas viewing for you.
This is well, there's a lot of snow in Russia, so and he's called it "Oh dearism." It's just like, oh dear, the world is really complex. Oh dear, and sometimes the world is so complex and so overwhelming that all you do is shut down and go into the past, or maybe into things that you can find meaning. It's quite easy to find meaning in the past, but the future feels very open. And again, it goes back to this risk. You know, the thing about risk is being able to see what is going to happen in the future. You know, we're predictive machines. I mean, that's what a human is, you know, is a predictive machine. We would predict where our prey went. We would predict what would happen. We started measuring the sun. Where was it? So we could start thinking about the future. So we could hunt, we could do all those things. And I think those things are innate in us. And we start to find meaning in things, but that meaning can be increasingly more complex to the point that it's shut down from it. And I think there's one thing I noticed over the last year is that by being bombarded by the sheer volume of things to do, that my natural propensity is to want to close off and shut down, to make my life simple. But in a way, my simplicity will only come, I think, and I don't have that. No one asked me for advice on this because I haven't mastered it. Is to somehow confront it, because I know I'm going to have to make a decision at some point, because I can't just retreat completely from things. So all I can do is develop the ability to make the decision more coherently and more conveniently for me.
I was learning something. I say learning something. I've learned this already, but I was going through it again because I did a presentation for it on my guys the other night in the mindset thing that I'm doing, and it was about memories and how you get memory loss. Right, as the further you are away from an event that's happened whenever in your life, the less you remember about it. Right, but there's also memory addition, because the bits that you can't remember, you'll fill them in. But if something happened 15 years ago and you're chatting to your mates about it, so you get the gist of the memory, and people get this with things like these podcasts and stuff like that. When we're talking about it, we're talking about all the detail around it. They'll get the gist of the idea of the thread of the podcast, but not remember all the detail. And then what your subconscious does is fill the detail in based on what you believe and what you think and who you are. So the gist of the idea is this: it can be the same in most people's brains, but the detail will be different for everybody. And so memories. So this is what's funny, because we're reflecting over the year, and this is what people do at this time of year and all that sort of stuff.
Old Lang Syne.
But you don't necessarily. I can't even remember the words to that. So
no, I can't. Don't ask me to sing that. I'll be like Mr. Bean.
Yeah,
hallelujah.
But so if you say something happened 15 years ago and you're chatting to your mates about it, oh, do you remember that? Oh, yeah, I remember that. What you're remembering is the last time you spoke about it, which might have been 3 or 4 years ago. You're remembering that memory of it, and the memory of the person who you were then, remembering the thing from 15 years ago. But you don't even remember that properly. So you're then going to add things in based on your subconscious. So this was something I was learning. I was talking to the guys about, because a lot of them are like, oh, my life's been like this and this, and this is why I've got to this point. And it's like, you're at that point now, and you're letting this memory of whatever it was hold you there. And it's probably wrong. Your memory of it is probably wrong, and you're staying stuck now. So all you need to do is just recognize that your memory's not right about that, forget about it, and move on. Well,
memories, again, it's about finding meaning in information that might be relevant to actions going forwards.
That's true. But if you're attaching meaning to something that you're remembering, that isn't even true anyway.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Because you've made it up in your head. You've got the gist of the memory, but you've made up the rest of the detail that's holding you where you are, which is giving it meaning. Does it actually mean anything if it's not true? So I just found that very interesting. That's constantly going around in my head now about anything that has held me in place of who I am and where I was, because I was held in a spot for years, and then I eventually just thought, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And this is a good time to think about it. It's not very Christmassy, but it's a good time to think about it, because people reflect on things, don't they?
Well, lots of people at this time of year will certainly be, like you say, reflecting on 2022 and what they've done and how they've lived, and then potentially changes they want to make. And we won't touch on at this stage, New Year's resolutions and all that sort of thing. We've talked about that in the past, and lots of people talk about that. But that's that kind of classic, start the next year, and try and put some decisions in, or make some decisions and put them in place, isn't it? I mean, I think
the question is, sorry, go on, James.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think the thing that Paul said earlier about simplification and simplifying things that's probably, I'd say, the biggest theme, I suppose, for my year over the last 12 months, trying to simplify my life and work a bit less and more time with family and more time relaxing, and just kind of strip away some of the sort of superfluous things that go on in life. And I think like I've just been to Norfolk, for the weekend, just totally on my own, and went swimming in the sea for 3 days, and went to the gym and followed my stupidly long programs from Paul McElroy.
Well, you're epic. It's kind of like the Odyssey, isn't it?
It is. I turned up at this this local leisure centre with my own kettlebell. So
they opened up for you. They're closed for you.
I just found myself a corner. I took my shoes off, got myself a black coffee, set my timer. Right, 50 sets, one set every 90 seconds. Off we go. And just kind of like, and I'm sure people
Press is done.
He's just stood in the corner, literally didn't move from like that 1 square meter, 1 meter square in the corner, with my phone and just one kettlebell, and just did the same thing 300 times, But in a way, I really like it because it is so, there's no hiding from it, there's no like the Dan John, the 1 lift a day program that he had, where you just do 1 lift a day, as it says, and you go in, and today is deadlift day, and all you do is deadlifts. And it's not like you can walk in and think, oh, I'll do a few arm curls and I'll do a few lateral raises and I'll go on the rower for a bit, because that's just really distracting yourself from the work that you need to do. So when you go in, and that's why I love having a program to follow, because you know exactly what you're doing and you do it, and there's no deviating from it, and again, it's that sort of resilience and that mental discipline, and that just start it and get on with it, which I really like,
You didn't send the video in and Paul said, actually, you did it wrong 300 times.
No.
It's funny though, because that's what works, but it's not what people want, isn't it? And I don't know if I struggle with that, but I know, like, we know what works, but we also know that some people come along, you give them what works, and they just go, it's the whole want what you need, give them a bit of what they want and a bit of what they need and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I don't know, I haven't really formulated a thought on that, but it's like, you can see when people like go, oh, I'm going to give this up because it's too focused. And it's like, that's the
thing. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the majority of people, we did the SFL, the strong first body weights, obviously a couple of months ago, myself and Nikki and Alex and
barbell
from the gym. The bar, what did I say? Dumbbell,
body weight,
sorry, barbell. And Nikki said to me, because they did a big lecture about programming. And obviously programming is, and we do a lot that obviously with Paul McElroy and that sort of thing, and other guests we've had on. And Nikki sort of said to me, this programming though, not really going to work for most of our members, is it? Because they come in and they train like once a week or twice a week, or they maybe miss a week because, you got people who like miss a week because something's going on at home, or they've got to do, so you don't see them for 2 weeks. So you can't actually have this really involved program that involves training 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. It does have to be more of a flexible kind of session, and that's why we still use the old push pull hinge squat loaded carry, and just as long as people are doing the big fundamental kind of compound movements, you just kind of have to be a bit more flexible with it, I think, for the majority of people. Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, the thing is, I had a class a few weeks ago 2 weeks ago, where someone had a knee problem, someone had a hip problem, someone had an elbow problem, someone had a shoulder problem, someone had a neck problem, and all of which was limiting the movements they could do. And so any plan that I had at the day went out the window as I was trying to adapt to everything. And that's kind of fitness, really. It's
for my guys recently, it's been hamstring problems exclusively, which is weird.
They all play football.
One guy tore his hamstring playing cricket.
Yeah.
One guy He
For
doesn't
it.
come to me at the minute, actually, and he's been working silly hours and all that sort of stuff because he got a new job, and he's in his mid-50s, I think. But he plays tennis, and I've seen him recently. He tore his hamstring playing tennis, and he said, "Oh, I went for this shot. I had no chance getting it, no right going for it, but I thought I'd go for it anyway." So it's like, right, okay. And then another guy got tore his one of the online guys tore his hamstring chasing a sheep because he keeps sheep and he couldn't get it in the barn.
You are in Bath, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm like, oh God, what are you people doing?
Well, the tennis
My
player,
mum once had to rugby tackle our dog when it was chasing sheep. But also, we once got out, and then we found loads of sheep being herded around the streets, and apparently it was our dog doing it. So, not my dog. I don't have a dog now. I'm a responsible owner. Anyway.
Dear me. Right, well, guys, I think we better wrap up about there. That was nice to have a catch up, a Christmas catch up with one Christmas jumper and three hosts all in various stages of Christmas cheer.
What you're missing is I've got a choir here waiting. They've been standing here very patiently.
Choir,
like Noel Edmonds,
haven't you? Yes, they're not happy. They're leaving.
It's like the Alan Partridge, knowing me, knowing you. With Mick Hucknall coming on to sing Ding Dong Merrily on High at the end.
I used to be called Mick Hucknall at school because I had very long hair.
Yeah, okay.
I used to be walking down the street and someone would shout Hucknall.
Yeah, was it Ginger as well?
Well, yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Anyway, so on that bombshell, as Partridge would say. Anyway, so that was episode 121. Oh, I do also have I've got my mulled wine urn back at the gym as well, which is being used quite nicely, which is festive. It's and people say, is that a pre-workout or a post-workout beverage? And it's kind of pre, post, and intra, if you wish. Keeps you warm as well because it's bloody freezing in the gym. So a nice hot mulled wine is a nice way to train. Anyway, that was festive. Anyway, so we will be back next week for episode 122, which will be Mark Lewis part 2.
Exactly,
and that will be the day before New Year's Eve. Okay. And then we'll be back all the way through 2023 with some great guests and lots more of the same. But thank you so much, guys, for listening. Thank you for supporting us and for all the comments and all the suggestions and all the messages that we get throughout 2022. We'll be back in 2023 after next week, which is already recorded. So we'll be back in 2023.
What day is it?
What's that?
I've lost track of where we are.
Yeah, don't worry. So I've got it. I'm organised. Don't worry. So we will see you all next year in 2023 after next week with Mark Lewis. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review. I think you can leave reviews now on iTunes and Spotify. If you want to go into the Facebook group, go into groups, click on groups in Facebook, type in Health Oddity, and then click to join, and one of us will let you in. And we will be back next week. See you soon. Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas. Goodbye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Oddity.